In less than 1 month since assuming office as the President of the United States, President Donald Trump seems to be moving away from his self-imposed legacy of wanting to be remembered as a unifier and a peacemaker. He is not only ambitious about annexing independent sovereign states and their territories, he is now levying tariffs indiscriminately on other nations. This forms the basis of our discussion on Conversation with Azul. Our column today is titled From America First to America Alone, written by one of the best in the art of column writing in Nigeria, Azul Ishefemi, who is with me to discuss this subject. You're welcome to Conversation. Azul.
Thanks for having me again, Dylan. It's a pleasure to be back.
Tariffs,
Yeah.
tariffs, tariffs. Trump says it sounds sweeter than honey.
Okay.
Yes.
In Trumptionary.
Yes. Is tariffs, retaliatory tariffs, going to hurt Trump and the United States more than the rest of the world?
Well, this is the fifth straight week on which I'll be writing on Trump-related issues. I
Indeed.
do, yes, indeed, and I'm actually doing that with a very heavy heart. I thought that I'm not um, a Trump specialist, and I really would, as I read in a couple
You're
of
becoming
places,
one.
I really wish I could have said my bit and just moved away and then let Trump be. But unfortunately, the decisions that he's taking are impacting not just the US and its neighbors, but the decisions that the US president takes obviously will have consequences for the rest of the world, including, of course, the reference you have made to his random, erratic, and clearly arbitrary imposition of tariffs. Um, Tariffs have always been a major problem in international trade. Of course, nations that impose tariffs have given reasons for all sorts of for imposing tariffs and all sorts of protectionist measures, including subsidies and quotas. But the overall impact of such measures have backfired and impacted not just the countries imposing such tariffs, but also their trading partners. And that the current case with Trump has not been any different, although there's been a pause in the tariff that he imposed on Canada and Mexico. There's been a 1 month pause, but the one that he imposed against China has gone ahead, and it's quite ironical, as I said in my piece today, that the U.S. that used to be the champion of a rules-based system has obviously abandoned any rules-based engagement in international trade for international affairs. It's now China going to report first to the World Trade Organization before taking its own retaliatory tit for tat measures. And the global system is still on edge. This coming from COVID-19 and all the supply chain problems we have. It's actually still on edge as the world used to see the impact of the China's retaliatory tariff measures against the US, which is supposed to go into effect on the 10th of February, which is going to be amended.
America alone, as you aptly said in your title, America used to be like the beacon of multilateralism. Is Trump about to turn the United States into an isolationist, single country? I mean, not dealing with the rest of the world, and by extension, just you know, stabbing its own self or shooting itself in the foot.
Um, Quite obviously, I do not think that Trumpites or Trump himself would agree with your point of view that he's shooting himself or shooting the U.S. in the foot by the steps that he has taken, the tariff bombs that he's been throwing right across the world. His defense has been that the U.S. has been badly impacted by immigration and by drugs, obviously through the borders. And he says that his argument is that the countries that he has targeted are implicated in both either in the either in the immigration problem or in the drug trade, or both, so that has been his defense, that he has a duty and a responsibility to Americans. And he said this from when he was campaigning, that he was going to take steps to ensure that, he protects the U.S. Borders, and also protects the countries and the citizens from the negative impact of this. But the question is, are there other potential measures? No responsible country would sit and hold its hands and watch its security or safety of its citizens compromised, or impaired, But are there other options? That really is a question that a lot of people have been asking themselves. And it does seem to me that there were other options available to Trump. But these are the steps or the measures that he has chosen for reasons which, he has a style. Trump believes that, he's the strong man type of leader, that he believes that except you wield the big stick, you cannot bring others to a negotiating table from the point at which you can then leverage. So he's sort of leveraging US influence, leveraging so that he just wants to bully his way through. That's his art of the deal. That essentially is his so-called art of the deal. It's just a playbook that he's gotten away with for a long time. And he obviously thinks that he'll get away with this time. I do not think that his defense about the impact, I do not minimize the impact of bad migration, or one would have good and positive and negatives, right? And I also do not minimize subjection to the illegal drug flow into the US. But the question is whether there are other alternatives or options open to him. And I absolutely believe, and I'll just give you one. In 2021, even without a single threat, Mexico deployed the same 10,000 people to the border. Troops, and it didn't need threats and all of those things to work. But of course, over time, the management of that obviously has been challenged. But my point essentially is that it's possible to negotiate and follow a rules-based system in reaching a solution that favors everyone involved, instead of just bullying your way through.
For many, many years, China is been regarded as the bad guy in international trade, using their own system. Now China is going before the World Trade Organization. Do you think Trump or the United States is inadvertently creating an advantage for China?
I think it's very difficult to say, but clearly what I think might emerge from all of this, obviously, is the US imposed a 10% tariff on Chinese. And then the extent of it is that packages from the US that were exempted, packages of up to $800 were exempted. Now that has been removed, so it's brought the threshold to even much lower packages, for that to be. And in its own retaliation, China has imposed 15% on US iron and US steel and US steel, amongst other things, and then 10% on other categories of US products, and then also put Google is now also investigating Google for for breach. So these will have repercussions, and the repercussions, in my view, are not going to be salutary, and we're already beginning to see regarding whether China is now beginning to look like a good guy. Obviously, China is trying to make friends. China will try to make more friends across and around the world, and people are going to be united by this bully in the China shop, and people all feel genuinely threatened. So if there's defined leadership of any country coming out openly to oppose or resist Trump, people will naturally gravitate towards that country. And as the author Stein said in his book America Alone, and that book was supposed to extol the virtues of the US as the last bastion of civilization. Obviously, America is just going to be alone in a negative, it's isolating itself in a negative sense, which is strange for everything America's exceptionalism stood for in the past.
All right. Retaliatory tariffs are going to negatively impact American citizens as well.
Yes.
I'm looking at a scenario where before 4 years are out, Americans are on the streets. What do you think?
Well, there is nothing Trump is doing now that he did not forewarn about. So those who voted for him, and they have perfectly have the right to do so, cannot claim to be ignorant of the consequences. They have to, they have made
Make
their
their
bed,
choice.
they have made their choice. They will obviously have to enjoy. Of course, I must agree that it's not all Americans. Unfortunately, that is how it goes. There are American scholars, very decent people in the US who are absolutely aghast by what Trump is doing. But it's the choice that the
That's me.
majority and they have to live with it in the next 4 years. Now, how that is going to impact us, people already forecasting that in the midterm there might be changes in Congress that will sort of moderate. We'll all have to wait and see. But obviously, one place where voters, whether they're American voters or voters in Nigeria, in a part of the world, feel the pinch is when it begins to hurt in their wallets and in their pockets. And we would wait to see how this whole measure, especially the tariffs, the backlash of this, affects inflation generally and house prices and all of that. Because that is when the chicken will come into it.
And finally, let's come back home to Africa. The United States Agency for International Development has just been shut down. And
by auctioneer Elon Musk, it's Trump auctioneer in chief.
well, generally speaking, how is all this tariff wars going to impact our continent?
Well, you
maybe
see,
our country?
USAID may have had its problems and challenges, but USAID was an essential instrument of U.S. soft power. And USAID was not only an agency, an independent agency that benefited um, countries like Africa and other places in the world, but also, as I said, as a tool of American soft power, it also benefited America itself. All right. So we will have to wait and see, what happens, But obviously, countries like Africa, which could that Nigeria, in fact, which Nigeria, Ethiopia, South Africa,
Kenya,
Uganda,
Ghana.
Tanzania, Kenya have been significant beneficiaries of funds from this area. They will have to look inwards or look elsewhere to meet that gap. But I do not. And just a quick point. You see, USAID was created in 1961, not by executive fiat, but by congressional act. So how it is that it is now being repealed by
Fiat.
fiat is just this is not the America that was a huge inspiration to Africa and to many parts of it. This is a totally different America but we all have to brace up for the consequences and see what.
Well, for more of this, visit azuishekone.com, and we do promise to keep our eyes on the ball, and then we'll bring you more entries in our diaries as events progress across the world. Thanks for watching, and thanks for coming on the show, Azu.
Thanks for having me once again.
I, I, I forgot to add, and I want to quickly. You seem to have another book on the cards coming
Oh,
up
yes,
soon.
absolutely. Yes. It's titled Page 50 Technology and Content Monetization. Watch out.
Watch out. Bye for now.